Today we're going to answer some questions about the ERC programme, and I've got with me Dr. Steve Bismar, who's one of the most experienced ERC educators. Steve's been with the programme since it was set up about 7 years ago and was also instrumental when we reorganised the programme 3 years ago. So Steve, there's nobody better qualified to talk about the ERC than you. Could you summarise what you see as the main advantages of the ERC programme?
Certainly, Julian, there are a number of advantages one would point to. The one-on-one contact with clinicians in a real-life situation where people put their clinical skills to use in everyday contacts with patients. This is building on the curriculum of the ERC and MD3 year, but it also is a reinforcement of skills that they've acquired previously. And obviously there's a known involvement in a GP practice over a full academic year, which means people have the chance to be embedded in the rural community in which they're placed, as well as being able to take advantage by going into what are known as block placements in the various regional towns through the ERC program as well.
So when students come into the clinical years, we talk a lot about self-directed learning, and that's particularly true in the ERC because it's obviously you've got 300 students doing something one way and then you've got 25 ERC students doing something the other way. What would you think is meant by that term when we say to students they've got to be good self-directed learners to be in the ERC?
It starts right from the start. So they certainly need to be, as you say, self-motivated. They need to have an awareness of the curriculum and of the areas of the curriculum which they need to be involved in, and they need to be able to reflect on their capacity to either be involved or to gain involvement through the placements that they have in furthering their approach from that curriculum involvement point of view. There's also the added necessity to have the capacity to interact with people in a one-on-one situation. The tutors, teachers, as we might call them, are all experienced educators, all very motivated educators, and all teaching basically in a one-on-one situation. So personal interaction skills, personal reflection skills, and the ability to take away and build on knowledge are all very important parts of being a student from an ERC point of view.
The other thing that we pride ourselves on in the rural clinical school is the amount of clinical exposure our students get. You've taught students in all sorts of situations. Would you say that students would definitely benefit from having that experience in the ERC practice where they can't really escape patient interaction? They're there with it all the weeks from the GP practices.
And there's no doubt about that. People who come through the ERC program at the end of the program almost universally reflect on the fact that they are able to interact in a huge variety of clinical situations. And that's something that comes with involvement on their part, but also with the guidance and the shared reflection between them and their GP tutors, as well as the specialists that they're involved in their placements on block placement as well.
Mm-hmm. But I guess there are students who'd be concerned that there are disadvantages to the ERC programme. Can you think of any potential disadvantages?
Firstly, let me just reflect that I'm coming from the point of view that I'm an unashamed advocate of the ERC program. But certainly in some parts of the program, for example, there will be people who will be geographically or socially more isolated from their peers than they might otherwise be used to. This is true of the Wangaratta Hub, obviously, and the Wangaratta Hub in particular has put together a program of educational, personal, social support, which involves, as you know, the Back to Wang days, which occur on a regular basis, where people get together, interact with their peers, interact with some of the specialists who provide curriculum advice to them in a generally supported way, and in a way which adds not only to their acquisition of knowledge base, but to their ability to perform under assessment conditions as well.
So over the years, it's my impression that the ERC has become more popular with the students who are in it, in that we get less and less students saying, I'm not sure this is a programme for me. Is that something you've noticed as an educator, that over the years people are getting more used to the idea of the ERC and happier with it?
To be perfectly blunt about that one, there are people who are actually more and more keen to be involved from an ERC point of view. And this is built, I think, on the experience of people coming before them and being able to pass on down through the cohorts the positives, the real positives from an educational involvement and support point of view, and also from the fact that the educators themselves have built a real system and a real ability to have a rapport with students, such that the students in each of the practices really get the most benefit that they can out of it.
One of the myths we need to dispel, I guess, that because it's a different programme, students may be concerned that the academic results are, not the same or better or worse than. I mean, last year I'm really proud that our top performing student, the student who came third in the MD3 year, was an ERC student. From your experience of educating students, would you comment that there's any difference in the cohorts?
As we've discussed, from an ERC point of view, people who are well motivated and have an idea of where they want the ERC/MD3 curriculum to fit into their career path are well suited from that point of view. And I can only agree, because it wasn't the year you're talking about, but the year previously, that of the top 10%, so the people who graduated in the MD cohort, 2 of those were ERC students as well.
Okay.
So there is an ongoing record of them being able to perform without disadvantage through that involvement.
I would say from my experience that if you want to be a rurally based general practitioner, this programme is a godsend. It really has everything you would need to prepare you for that. There may be people who find themselves in the ERC and have no wish to be a rural general practitioner and wish to return to metropolitan areas and have a career perhaps as a specialist in a metropolitan area. Would you comment on what students have said to you, or your experience with students? Is this a real concern that they're being trained only to be rural GPs, or would you say that overall it makes no difference to what career you wish to have?
The skills they develop are obviously generic, and through the program we have seen people go on certainly to become involved in more specialised training programs post-vocationally, and with great success. So what I would see the advantage of the ERC program being would be in focusing people's thoughts about where their career lies and how they can make the most through their own motivation of getting there. It's not a disadvantage.
So hopefully we've answered some of the questions you may have about the ERC programme, and hopefully you'll see that we've not just told you positive things, we've told you what we really feel to be the truth about the ERC programme. If you do have more questions, feel free to contact Dr. Bismar or myself, because we want you to have the best information possible on which to base your decisions.